The war with Ukraine has become a tool for the ruling elite of Russia to retain power in Russia. And if there is no war, the Kremlin will lose such a tool. This opinion was expressed in a conversation with Glavred by military expert and former SBU employee Ivan Stupak. All these boys in panties will return home and crime may reign. By the way, since last year, the Putin administration has been holding events aimed at employing those who returned from the war, says Stupak. The expert explained that they want to employ all those who returned from the war in a way that would not have negative consequences. A career elevator is being created. The task is to place them in the legislative bodies in the regional assembly, because they are afraid that people with combat experience will either go into crime or into opposition movements. To prevent this from happening, they are thinking up what to do with them, the expert said. It is also impossible to rule out the possibility that Russia will face the risk of conflict between this new political class and the old one. In any case, war is life for such people. Their thinking looks something like this: there is a war. Moving forward, no war. We need to talk about something else. And it will be unpleasant to talk about something else, especially about the losses in the battles for territories that have become scorched earth. There is nothing there. It is probably worse than even the Chernobyl zone. In this context, I constantly talk about the Kharkov region. The Russians were not there for very long, but the territories are still being demined. And what can we say about Bakhmut, for example, or the entire Donetsk region? I assume that it will take years to demine it. Stupak summed up. Russian economist Vladimir Milov said how Ukraine can drive Russians to protest in the Russian Federation. When the government in Russia weakens and citizens stop being afraid, mass riots may begin in the country. The editor-in-chief, citing economic expert Taras Zagorodny, told whether new protests against the war would take place in the Russian Federation. He explains that in Russia there is a different attitude towards people who fight for money. So attempts to protest against the war, such as the riots of soldiers' mothers in some regions, have ceased. The Standard experts also named the year when Putin might withdraw from the war in Ukraine. Analysts explained that Russian President Vladimir Putin does not take into account the losses in the war in Ukraine, but he may soon be forced to stop.
Fighters of the 27th Brigade of the Ukrainian National Guard have discovered and disabled a Russian Bucha M1 surface-to-air missile system in occupied territory in Donetsk region. Ukrainian aerial reconnaissance units spotted that the occupiers had placed the system, valued at approximately $40 to $50 million, inside a hangar. A series of precise strikes caused an explosion inside the hangar. Additionally, one of the drones remained on the system without detonating. When the occupiers realized they were being targeted and attempted to retreat from the area along with the equipment, the drone on the Bucha exploded. The blast destroyed the air defense system and also killed the crew members.
Ukraine appears to have integrated its domestically developed glide bomb kit, known locally as a CAB, onto the MiG-29 fighter jet, which remains a backbone of the country's Air Force fleet. Ukrainian defense media outlet Defense Express reported a MiG-29 was recently spotted carrying a 500-kilogram bomb fitted with Ukraine's CAB guidance kit, an indigenous counterpart to Russia's UMPK system. The sighting suggests Kiev is moving toward broader deployment of these weapons on its most numerous aircraft. It remains unclear whether the photo was taken during a combat sortie or a testing flight. Earlier, Defense Express published footage of tests involving the CAB developed by the Ukrainian design bureau Medoid. At that stage, the weapon was mounted on a Su-24 frontline bomber, which was likely used only as a trial platform. Ukraine's inventory of Su-24M/MR bombers is limited, and today they are primarily tasked with launching Storm Shadow and Scalp cruise missiles supplied by Western partners, a role that, in part, could eventually be filled by the French Mirage 2000. United 24 Media says, by contrast, the MiG-29 is the most numerous fighter in Ukraine's arsenal and benefits from fully localized maintenance and service support. The aircraft can carry 500-kilogram bombs, meaning that if the CAB is successfully integrated, the Air Force could significantly increase the frequency and scale of precision strikes. This would not be the first time the MiG-29 has been adapted for guided munitions. Previous upgrades have allowed it to carry American GBU-39 bombs and French AASM hammers. However, given the limited supply of Western-made weapons, Ukraine's homegrown alternative could prove critical. Ukrainian engineers state that the current CAB can hit targets at ranges of up to 60 kilometers, with plans to extend that to 80 kilometers. The kit is designed for 50-kilogram class bombs and is already reported to be cheaper than Western equivalents, even at the prototype stage. Analysts suggest that earlier modifications to integrate foreign systems may have paved the way for smoother adaptation of Ukraine's own weapons on Soviet-era jets. This raises the possibility that the CAB could eventually be fitted onto the Su-27, or that such integration is already underway. For now, Ukraine's Air Force reportedly requires at least 100 such glide bombs per day, a demand that foreign deliveries cannot meet. Domestic production of the CAB offers a potential solution, strengthening Ukraine's capacity to sustain frequent, precise, and cost-effective airstrikes. Earlier, Ukraine developed an advanced electronic warfare system known as Lima that can interfere with the navigation of Russian glide bombs equipped with the Universal Planning and Correction Module.